Hello everybody. So last Friday I talked about what I would purchase if I was starting off all over again and making paper crafts, specifically card making. And I showed you the items. So this is ruler, pencil, one stamp block, pair of scissors, adhesive, white paper, one stamp set, baby wipes, black ink, and a pencil. And then I've added this post-it note tape today to what we're going to do. You could absolutely add just sticky notes, post-it notes, whatever you call them, to make today's card. I pulled the baby wipes out, set them aside, because nothing's worse than having wet baby wipe touch your project and ruin it. This is card number 1. It is just with everything shown in front of you. And I've done 2 layers and created this background there with stamping. I think it turned out really cute. I used some lighter weight paper that you can purchase at Michael's. It's just a 60-pound weight, and it does make a difference, the quality of paper, but I wanted to show you how it could turn out just using that lower quality, lower weight paper. This is card number 2. You could see I've added another layer, so 2 layers on top of the card base, and I've done some coloring with some colored pencils, and I put a printed piece of paper behind. So you can see that's my other layer. And I stamped this sentiment on a separate piece of paper and then fussy cut around it. And then popped it up on some foam squares. So you have a little bit of dimension. This one has 3 layers. So I've got a little tiny bit of the black showing. Then I've got the polka dot paper. And then I've got the white layer with the stamping. I added some ribbon. I stamped these flowers on a separate piece of paper and colored them in, fussy cut them, popped them up so that they have some dimension to them. And I also did the same popping up with the sentiment as I did last time. However, before I put it on there, I glued it on a piece of piece of black paper, and I cut it out there too. And then I added some little crystal bling on there. Okay, so let's make this first card together, and you'll see how easy it comes together. You can do this with just the skills you learned in kindergarten, pretty much. Other than the stamping, probably you didn't do that in kindergarten, but otherwise, cutting, gluing, all of that kind of stuff. Okay, so this is a 0 ruler, which I love. I'm going to line it up at the end, excuse me, and I'm going to go to the 5.5 inch mark. This paper is 8.5 by 5.5, and so if I want a card that's 4.25 by 5.5, I'm going to have to cut it in half at the 5.5 inch point, and I'm going to draw those 2 tick marks. I'm just going to draw a straight line. Okay. And always put your ruler just to the side of the little tick marks you drew with the pencil, because you want your line, your pencil line, to go right through it. And I'm not the best at cutting a straight line, so I need that extra line between the two pencil dots or tick marks. I just folded that in half, and there we have our card base. This other piece could be one more card base, but I'm going to use it to do some stamping on and things probably. Okay, so we're going to put this down on the piece of paper. We're going to use this post-it tape, and we're going to just attach it down as close to that fold, that crease right there, as we can get it. We're doing this for a couple of reasons. Number 1, it's going to hold it tight while we're stamping. Things are not going to move around. Number 2, I don't want to stamp onto the back of the card. Okay, so here is this little flower from the stamp set. It's little, I think it's 3 flowers. And I'm going to just randomly stamp it around. And I'm going to move the stamp a little bit because I don't want them all to be going exactly the same way, look exactly the same. Some of them I'm going to go off the edge. Some are going to be completely stamped on the paper. I don't need to do any stamping in the middle because I'm going to cover it up with that other layer. So we're just doing as much stamping as we need to. I'm not going to take any more time than that. And again, rotate your stamp as you go so it looks more random and not as much like you're just, that same stamp set over and over again. Okay, so there's our background. I don't really think I needed to come in that far at all. See when I take the tape off how it looks nice and clean there? I'm going to clean my stamp here, and I'm going to leave it out to dry because I'm using baby wipes instead of something else. They do get down in the grooves for these red rubber stamps. You want to let them dry, and then you want to check to make sure you don't have any linty pieces that you need to clean up. Okay? So I'm just saying here, like, don't be like me, like I am sometimes, and leave all these lids open and then accidentally stick your hand in it. Okay, so you can see the room I have to cover, and I want to come in a 1/2 inch. So I had a 4 1/4 side, so I'm going to come into 3 3/4. Put a mark, and you can see I need to go the opposite way because if I came from the other side, that wouldn't be 3 3/4 lining up. Okay, and at first I think, well, I'm just going to cut this across. That's not very long, and then I remember it's me, and I should probably draw a line to cut across. So I do, and then we're going to need to cut the other side too because we just want it, instead of 5 1/2, we want it to be 5 inches. So I'm going to draw the line, and then I'm going to cut. And this one it just would have been one straight across with the scissors, but I go ahead and draw the line. There we go. And if you have any pencil marks, come back in, erase them so they don't show on your finished work. Okay, so now I'm going to just take a look, make sure I've got enough of that showing, that background, that I can see it and appreciate it, and I can. So let's see here, where I'm going to tape it down again, just so it holds in place. I'm going to use this big branch first with the flowers on it because it's kind of the center of the card, and so I want to get it down and then put everything else around it. Okay? Now I have the bird, and the bird needs to go on the branch, like it's sitting on the branch. So it takes me just a minute to line it up. And it is a little cumbersome using just one size stamp block, this big block here. And also, again, on the other cards, I go to smaller blocks for the different things because I'm used to being able to switch my blocks out. So I kept wanting to reach for a different block, and I remembered, nope, you don't have one in your toolkit if you're just doing it like this. So there's the big bird. You can see how nicely etched and detailed these stamps are. I love that with the red rubber stamps. Okay, now we're going to put the birthday melody sentiment up there. And I'm trying to do it without putting my head in the middle, and of course that means I bumped the camera or the table. I bumped something. Okay, so now we are going to put some little musical notes around. And I don't necessarily want them completely black like I did everything else. So I stamp them off once. That one, I stamp it off once. And then I stamp it on the project so you can see it's kind of a gray color instead of black when I do that. And I like that effect, and that will work with any color of ink. You've got a dark red, you just want a more muted shade. So as you add the colors, keep that in mind. Now I'm going to do that with these little flowers too. Add a few more on there. When you get a new stamp set or a new ink color, try these things out on even just copy paper until you figure out, what you like and how you want to stamp this stamp set and how you want to use the color and what different effects you can get with it. Okay, I'm wiping my hands off on those baby wipes because nothing worse than getting everything done and then you get a black blotch of ink on your white card base or any place on the card where you didn't intend to have it. Okay, so I've got a little bit of a glob there. I'm going to push it in, wipe my finger off with the baby wipes, and it's good to go. Now, because I'm using this type of glue adhesive, I have a little bit of time to kind of move things around and make sure I get them straight. And I think that just turned out really cute. And you can see I didn't have a lot of ink colors. I didn't have a lot of tools at all to make that card. Okay, now I'm going to show you just some of the different things I did on the other cards. I'm not going to create both those cards for you. If you want to see that, I can make a video. But basically, I think after you've seen the first one, you just need to see the different techniques I used. Okay, so I'm stamping it on a separate piece of paper like I did for the third card. Then I went to my colored pencils, and these are waxy ones, and I picked out the color that I wanted, and it told me I could get that effect by using these two pencils together. So first I'm going to use the darker color, which is kind of like a rust, almost like a rust red, and I'm going to color it in. Again, I'm going to fussy cut this out so I don't need to worry on this particular one about how neatly I stay in the lines. I'm going to take a little bit of baby oil in a cap, and I'm going to put one of these little blending sticks in there, and I'm going to blend it out so that I get rid of all the pencil marks. Now I'm going to take this other color, and I'm going to color all of that in, and I don't need to worry about pencil marks because I'm coloring it on top of that oil. And see how much brighter and more vivid it becomes? You can also do both of your colors together and then use the baby oil or Gamasol. I just use baby oil, it's less expensive and I like it to keep it in my craft room. So now I'm going to fussy cut, and you see how I'm turning the paper with my other hand? I'm not turning the scissors. So much easier to fussy cut that way. And then you can go back in if you've got a little too much white. So that's how you do it. You just cut right close to the edge, or like I did on the sentiment, I left that rim of white around it, which is cute too. Okay, so here's how you can add ribbon to your card without using a ton of ribbon, though I used too much here. I could have used a much shorter length. So I put it there, and I just use regular tape, Scotch tape, to do it. And you just tape it down, and no one can tell from the front of your card that you didn't loop a whole piece of tape around. Now I'm going to cut another piece, and on the front I'm going to decide where do I want my little bow to be. And all I'm going to do with this piece is tie a knot. I'm going to tie it fairly tight because I want it to pull my ribbon in where it's knotted. And then I cut off the pieces. Again, I'm wasting too much ribbon here. Do not do what I did. You know, don't use a whole ton of ribbon because it is something that, you know, costs money. Okay, so now I'm putting a little glue dot down to hold that piece in place, and you want to put it underneath the knot so you don't see it. Now I have these little ribbon bows that match, and I'm going to use another glue dot to place it down. And I thought I had a glue dot on that piece. I did not, so now I'm using that and placing it down. You can see how cute that is, and it didn't take any effort. I mean, that's so easy to do the way I did it. So again, I added some bling on there. I popped some things up. I added some glaze to the tops of the flowers, and then I did the inside with the same 3 layers, stamping. I didn't do it dimensional, but stamping and then coloring in. So, and I used the better paper on that one, and I used my tools that I'm used to using and that I really like to have, like the scoring and trimming board, and the littler scissors, the littler stamp blocks, my colored pencils, all of those things I got out to make the fancier card. But you can see someone would love to get that first card with just that little bit.